The Prophet ﷺ had favorite foods. I met some Hakims who used, their practice consisted of using just the foods that the Prophet ﷺ favored. And they used 5 things. Salt. The Prophet ﷺ said he was to humanity as salt was to food. Salt was one. Honey. Quran refers to honey as there's a healing in it for you, Quran says. Milk. Prophet ﷺ drank quaffed milk, right? I mentioned that yesterday. He sipped water. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sipped water. People who know me know I almost never drink water. If I drink water, I sip a little bit. But I quaff milk. I love milk. Whole, preferably natural milk. Goat's milk, camel's milk. I mean, cow's milk is most available, but goat's milk is good milk. Each one has different qualities. Fresh whole milk is warm and moist, and it's very favorably hydrating. You know, it will hydrate very effectively, providing you can manage it. If you don't have the enzyme for digesting it, then you can't do it. It will be toxic. But that's a disturbance. I mean, you want to sustain the ability to digest milk from childhood from the mother's milk. I mean, it's the first food we eat. Mammals. So these are the 5 foods. So we've got salt, honey, right? Milk, vinegar was another favorite food, right? Salt, milk, honey, vinegar, and olive oil. Now those are the 5 things that these Hakims used for all different ailments. And they're all traditional foods. All of the substances mentioned in Quran are potentially, they're archetypal. I mean, that is, they fit in the spectrum of things in the creation. They're found at very various points, very specifically in a spectrum of possible things. From stones to basil, rehan. Do you know? So all of those things are potential medicines or foods or meaningful things in the creation for us. But you know, these Hakims took these 5 things, and traditionally you look at using these, they make up traditional medicine, and they can be used in different ways. Honey and milk mixed, for example, extremely warm and moist. Talk about nutrition for someone undernourished, it's powerful. In terms of real getting warm, the warm and moist, it's not up there anymore, the warm and moist aspect in terms of food, nothing better than honey and milk. Vinegar and honey is one of the old, what is it called, hydromel. And anybody know the traditional Greek? I mean, that was one of the medicines of the Greeks. Vinegar and honey mixed. For cleaning, for removing mucus, balgam, for detoxifying. Salt and vinegar together. Liver, stomach, tonic, all these things. Anyway, so those are all foods. And in a healthy person, balance of the body, hot, cold, wet, and dry, can be affected by the right choice of hot, cold, wet, and dry foods. And if you're in tune with your body, and if you understand the creation elementally, you naturally want to do this. And you'll have cravings particularly for natural things that you will be needed to keep that balance. Now, if you're sick, you may crave your poison. That's another thing my teacher taught, which is the inclination tends to be, if you chronically crave something, this is one of the teachings in the school of the Mufaradat, the simples. If you chronically crave something, it tends to be a poison. It's an addiction, and so you're stuck. You're stuck in a cycle of need and replenishing the need, and it's a mistake that the system is involved in, that you're involved in. So if you crave salt, if you crave sweets, whatever it is, there's something else that it's trying to satisfy. So it's a mistake. So a general rule is this: chronic cravings tend to be poisons. Unusual cravings tend to be medicines. And he said, my teacher said, if you have unusual cravings, recognize the unusual craving as a medicine and go for it. And in the school of the Mufaradat, when you crave, for example, once every 2 or 3 years, I'll crave beets. I don't really like beets that much. They're too sweet, too heavy feeling to me. But every 2 or 3 years, I have this craving for beets. And if I have that craving, boom, he said, not to eat lots of it. So another principle of healing with foods is you don't eat just 1 or 2, you eat lots. So like for the kidney, and certain foods correspond to certain organs in certain parts of the body. So I mentioned peaches for the liver yesterday, did I? Peaches for the liver, watermelon for the kidneys, cherries and grapes for the blood and the lungs, apricots for the lower intestines. So these foods, traditionally, in the school of Mufaradat. Now, so back to the medicine of the Prophet, he ate very few things, but he had these things that were favored. And he favored things like vinegar, strangely enough. He liked vinegar and said it was a natural thing to eat with food. And it was traditionally bread and vinegar for the people in that time. That's a meal. But do we think of that as a meal? Bread with some vinegar. Yeah.
Foods, are they always black and white, where there's a problem, that you take this food or this herb? Like in homeopathy, a lot of the remedies are based on constitution, so even if you give the same remedy to 2 different people, they're going to act differently. So would this follow with these?
Well, most of the foods that are used in terms of the Mufaradat are specifics, yes. So generally speaking, if you have problems with the liver, but this is not true of all foods. Not all foods have been identified as to their specific use, but in the tradition, generally speaking, a particular food is recognized as being beneficial in general for that particular organ, part of the body, etc. The ones I just gave the correspondences to, those are considered pretty much across the board. So, I use those foods. For example, almonds for people who families have cancer. That's an across the board. Your family has cancer, eat 3 almonds. My teacher used to say, eat 3 almonds every day. Not more than that, but every day, eat 3 almonds. So it was like that. And so some of them are more than others. Other foods, it's, for example, all the birds are good for the lungs. This is another kind of way it's indicated. It's a little more general. They will nourish the lungs. And there will be in the birds some kind of energy, again, like the Mufaradat energy, that may benefit whatever problems may be happening with lungs as well. In the creation, you see this, there's something called the doctrine of signatures. You know the doctrine of nutrition. You know the doctrine of signatures is based on this idea that in Allah's creation, what something is useful for is kind of written on it. So like there's a plant called eyebright that's good for the eyes, that's used traditionally for the eyes and and if you look at it, it's got its little eyes. It's like, do you know what I mean? Or in homeopathy, there's a plant called bryonia that's used for constipation, for holding, and for people who hold on, that are afraid to let go and let loose. Bryonia is a plant that grows, it's a vine, and it grows like this around something. And after it's done that, then it grows like this around something. It really holds on. So it's a signature. Or they say like watermelon has a great signature for kidney. Here's this great huge thing filled with cells, filled with fluid in this stringy vine. You see what I'm saying? It's written in the kind of form of it. It's kind of written that it's for the kidneys. Or they say walnuts for the brains, or apples for the heart. So the doctrine of the signatures is one of those things that's been present. I'm not saying it's a sunnah, but I'm saying it's present in traditional medicine. And yes.
For the pancreas? What fruit is good for the pancreas?
Fruit for the pancreas? Not specifically, no. But the kidney stuff, I would say, first of all. At least. Yeah.
Did you use Those simple remedies in your practice: the vinegar, the milk, the honey, the olive oil.
Yeah, I'll use them. I mean, I use everything I've gathered and gleaned through the years in various ways, depending on what comes to me. Jamun fruit, by the way, for the pancreas. Anybody know jamun fruits? If you're from, nobody knows jamun fruit? You know jamun. If you're from India or Pakistan, jamun. They're little purple things that grow high and way. They grow in Santa Barbara, California, too. I found trees of jamun just pouring out. No one knows what they are. They're just unknown.